So, I am Neeraj Kumar Jain, Assistant Professor of Computer Applications, ITS Mohanagar, Ghaziabad. And today I am going to tell you something about data structures. So, within third semester, there is an important subject, as you know, data structures using C and C++. So, language doesn't matter. We'll use C, we'll use C++, and let's see what are data structures. So, I'm writing the subject is data structures. So it is a word, it is a term made of two words, and by name both are clear. Data you understand very well. Raw figures and facts, that may be termed as data, and structures is like containers. So we are talking about data containers which will contain data which will be used further in processing. So if I write 5, 2, plus, equal, I think this doesn't mean anything. It is meaningless. But if we put all the symbols intelligently, then we can write 7 like this. So broadly we can term these kind of raw figures and facts as data, and now this is in a meaningful manner, meaningful way, which is communicating some important information to us that 5 plus 2 is 7. So this becomes your information, right? So this was data. Okay. Let's move further. Till now, students, we have made so many programs within C and other programming languages as well. But the thing is that we have not discussed about efficiency of the program till now. So as far as a program and efficient program are concerned, so this is a simple program, C simple program, right? And we will make simple changes into it. We will try to make some changes into it, and this program will be converted into efficient programs, right? So the question here comes, what do you mean by efficiency? How can we convert a normal simple program within an efficient program? So here is the concept of complexity, and we are taking two parameters. One is time and another is space. So time and space are two important parameters which are responsible to make a program efficient. What does it mean? Which time we are talking about? Which space we are talking about? So this is very important to understand. So time means, is it the time to type the program? Is it the space it is consuming on your C editor? No, not at all. So let me tell you which time we are talking about. So time a program takes for execution. We are talking about CPU time. You know, CPU is the processor of a computer, and it is responsible to process each kind of information, each kind of program. Right, so time a program which is taking for execution. So we are talking about execution time. As it is clearly understood that a program, if a program is taking minimum time for execution, it will be faster. And what we are trying to make is, we are trying to make a program as fast as possible. So here time plays an important role. We want that our programs, whatever programs we are writing, that must be executing on CPU in minimum time. It must be fastest. Same as space, we are talking about RAM space here. You know clearly, whenever a program which is stored on hard disk needs execution, it has to come to RAM first. And RAM is the crucial space. It has the limited space for user program's execution. So any program which is coming into the RAM, which is occupying RAM, where operating system already resides, right? So your program, whatever you are writing, that must take minimum space in the RAM. So that kind of space we are talking about in this context. So a program will be termed as efficient program only when it is taking minimum time for execution and it is taking minimum space for storing its variables, its data into RAM. Clear? So what is the difference between a program? I'm repeating. What is the difference between program and efficient program? Is a program which is taking minimum time for execution, a program which is taking minimum space for storing its variable into RAM. Such a program is termed as efficient program. So as I told earlier, with C programming till now, we have just made programs. We have never bothered about the space your program is taking. We have never bothered about the time it is occupying, it is taking for execution. Right, so those were simple programs only. Now we will take care of the time and space complexity of a program so that it can be termed as a efficient program. Clear? I hope it must be clear to you. So let's move further. How can we do it? We'll see later. But before that, I would write a simplest definition of the program. Till now we have studied program is nothing but it's a set of instructions, right? So program is nothing, it is set of instructions. This is true. But if I want to write a program like this, so we can write an effective program or efficient program is a sum of algorithm and data structures. This is another definition of efficient program, right? So I need to change my marker actually. Wait for a second. So I can write efficient program is equal to, or even program is equal to algorithm plus data structures. So these two are main components of a program, right? So one is algorithm, one is data structure. I hope you clearly understand about algorithm, right? Data structure is what we are going to study, but algorithm, this is what we have already studied, right? So step-by-step solution, let me revise its definition. It is just a step-by-step solution of a given problem. So a program contains only majorly two things only. One is its way to solve the problem, and another is data structures we are using. So it is clearly indicated here. If your data structures, if your choice of data structures are good, if your algorithm is good, only then your program will be efficient program. Only in that situation it will be taking minimum time, minimum space. And as I told you, if a program is consuming these two things as minimum as possible, such a program will be termed as an efficient program. So here in this equation, we can say algorithm is good, data structure is good, as a result you will get efficient program. Right? We'll take an example. You will learn clearly. Okay, if our algorithm is not good, data structure is okay, your program which must take few nanoseconds or few microseconds to execute, it will take several days also. If your algorithm is not good, if your method of doing things is not correct, it will take a lot of time. Right? Let me give you an example. So here is an example. Suppose there is a book in which there are 1,000 pages. Right? A book is there which has 1,000 pages, and you are supposed to search 756 page. Page number 756 is to be searched. Right? So how do you do it? It will depend, the time to fetch this page number will depend on the method you are choosing. There are two methods. One is linear, one is binary. I hope. So within the book of 1,000 pages, if you want to search page number 556, there may be two ways. One is linear, one may be binary. So let's take an example of binary. What you will do within binary, or normally any person who wants to fetch this page within this book, what he will do, he or she will do, she will make a rough guess and get the page. Let us take an example. Suppose the page comes after this rough guess is 800. Right? It happens. So it is 800. Now it is clearly visible to us that one side, that is 12799, this side is useful for us, and another side which is showing page number 800 is useless for us. Again the same thing is to be repeated within this left or this half part of the book. This is to be again fetched for the page number 756. So you will again make a rough guess, and let's say this time page number 790 comes. Right? We have just made two options till now. We have just made two chances. We have taken two chances and we have reached to 790, which is close to 756. Maybe it is possible if you make one more guess, then you are on page number 760. Every time you see, when we make a guess, the another part of the book becomes useless for us. Right? One more guess and you will be on page number 756. Right? So see the magical thing. We had 1,000 pages and we just made 4 comparisons or maximum 5 comparisons and we have got the number. Right? So that is binary search. Within just 5 comparisons, we have got the number which is required. So we will understand that the beauty of binary search algorithm. See, if we have 10 lakhs of numbers, it's a huge number. 10 lakhs can be written as 1000 into 1000. right? So if we have data of 10 legs, then using binary search, we have to make maximum 21 comparisons, right? There's a formula. So I'll discuss this formula whenever I will be teaching binary search trees to you. But here you just understand that using this binary search algorithm, it is quite efficient algorithm that out of the data of 10 legs, you need to make, in worst case, you need to make just 21 comparisons. So this is the beauty of this algorithm. Let's compare this algorithm with linear search. Right, so what happens in linear search? This was an example of binary search, and let us discuss now linear search. You know what? Linear search means what? There is a data set with us, and what we are saying is, let's say 2, 6, 9, 11, minus 20 and 3. Right, this is the data set with us, and we are in search of minus 20. Right, we are searching minus 20 out of this data set. So what we will do is, with a linear search, is it minus 20? No, move further. 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 Is it minus 20? Yes. So search successful, and we will print it out, its output as that minus 20 is found at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th location. So that's a linear search, in which we will start from beginning, and we will compare each and every data member. We will compare it with the item we are searching, and number of comparisons will be depending on n. Right? So let's compare linear search with binary search. If there was a data of 10 legs, right? So, and if you have chosen linear search to perform this search, right? So in worst case, 10 legs number of comparisons are to be made, which will be too much time consuming. So you just compare yourself using binary search within this data set. In worst case, it is taking 21 comparison, and with the different algorithm, linear search, same data set, it is taking same, that is 10 legs of numbers of comparison. You can have clear idea of the time consumption within these two algorithms. Right? So I told you, if your algorithm is not good, if the way of solving problem is not good, it may take several days for execution. Right? So here in searching, your binary search is more efficient than linear search. Right? But it has some conditions, certain conditions, which we will tell you later. To perform binary search, there are some conditions that, like, data must be sorted, so that we can clearly say that this part of the book is useless for us and this part of the book is valuable for us. So till now we have understood about data, about simplest definition of data structures, programs, efficient programs, selection of algorithms and data structures. Right? Let me repeat this definition once again. Data structure is a way to keep data in such an organized way into the computer memory, so that it can be manipulated, it can be fetched, it can be accessed quite quickly, and it can be a part of efficient program. Fine. Let me try to make you understand about this term in another words. So data structures, again, as we know that within C and or other programming languages, we have seen some data types like integer, float, character, double, and so on. So they are also data structures. Why? The reason is they are containing data within them. Right? They have specific properties, like character can take 1 byte only, 1 byte data only. Float can store values with decimals, floating point numbers, real numbers. Similarly, integer have some properties. So all these data types have certain different properties, and definitely they are termed as data structures. Right? Let me make it clear in another example, with the help of another example. If we take an example of our kitchen, right? Yes, I'm talking about our kitchen. So within our kitchen, if you notice that we have several containers to contain kitchen items, right? So several containers, if you have noticed, about their size, about their shapes, right? About their mode of operation, right? So these are the things. We have different types of containers within our kitchen, which are different in size, their shapes and their mode of operations, right? And why so? Why are we taking containers of different shapes and different sizes and different, with their mode of operation is different? Because it is required. Because it is required. Can you tell me the name, or have you noticed a special utensil in the kitchen, available in the kitchen, which can store 6 or 8 spices at once? So that is a box which contains all spices all together, and this is in this shape or size because we require all these spices at the same time when we are cooking in the kitchen, right? Similarly, to store flour, to store rice, we need a big container. To store cardamom, to store chili powder, we need containers which are different, which are smaller in size, which are easy to open, which are easy to access, right? Similarly, on the basis of requirement, we have containers which are different in their sizes, which are different in shapes, and which are differently operated by us. Same 100% same case applies to data structures. We have different types of data along with us. If we talk about our height, that is different. If we talk about our age, that is different. Our name is entirely different. Different means my name is alphabetic in sense, it is text, right? My age may be real number, maybe integer. Similarly, my height, 99% chances are there, it is not exact 5 feet or 6 feet. So it is 5.6 or 5.8. So it is storing, maximum it is storing floating point numbers. Similarly, my address contains alphanumeric digits and alphabets both. Right? So different kinds of data is associated with us. If we want to store entire information into the computer system and want that it should be used within processing, we need different kinds of data structures. I am repeating, as within cooking example, within the kitchen, we need to store ingredients of food items into different containers of different sizes, different shapes, and their modes of operation are also different. Similarly, these data containers, which we are calling data structures, need to be available, and these are different in size, shapes, mode of operations, and features. I think I'm clear here. So let me make a diagram which will show you the broad classification of data structures, right? So here we go. I'm making this diagram. So here I'll write data structures, which is to be divided broadly into two categories, right? One is primitive data types, and another is non-primitive, right? Data structures can be primitive or non-primitive, right? Another name of primitive may be basics, you can say, right? These are basic data types or data structures, and these are derived, right? So this is the broad classification of data structures. It can be divided into two categories. One is primitive, one is non-primitive. These are basics, these are derived, and this is also clear that these derived data types are coming from these only. That means these are building blocks. We are using these kind of data structures in order to make these. Fine. So let me write, or let me draw that these may be integer, basics. So float, it may be character, it may be pointer. So these are basic blocks. Fine. And using these basic blocks or primitive data structures, we are able to make these non-primitive data structures. So let me write this also. We will divide it into three categories, 1, 2, and 3. So one may be arrays. Arrays we've already studied. So arrays is another kind of non-primitive data structures. Then comes files, and finally comes lists. Right? So it is divided, or derived data structures are divided into three categories: arrays, files, and lists. Fine. So further we will divide lists into several parts. Right. So list can be derived. List can be shown. Let me change a bit. So list can be written as linear and non-linear. You understand linear and non-linear? Right? Any list which is following a linear path, that means a particular element comes after a particular element. There is a sequence. So that is linear. And what is non-linear? Which is not in a same line, right? So this is non-linear, this is linear. Linear can be further divided into stacks and queues, right? Exact meaning of stacks and queues will be discussed in next video, but here you must understand stacks and queues are linear data structures, while non-linear data structures include trees and graphs. Fine. So this is a broad classification of data structures. We can also write about files, we can write about arrays, right? So list may be linear lists as well. So this is the broad classification. Let us revise once again. Data structures can be broadly classified into two categories: primitive, non-primitive. Primitives are basic blocks like integer, float, character, and pointers. And deriveds are definitely deriving their existence from basic or from primitive data types. So these are arrays, files, and lists. We are further dividing lists into two parts. List may be linear, list may be non-linear. So stacks and queues are examples of linear data structures, and trees and graphs are example of non-linear data structures. I'll show two diagrams here, and you have to identify, you will clearly identify that which is linear, which is non-linear. If I have a list, or if I have an example of stack in which all the elements one by one are inserted into this array. So first will come here, second will come here, third will be here, fourth will be here, and so on. They are following a sequence, right? This can't come after this, right? So there is a particular sequence to be followed by these elements. So that is the reason this is known as linear, right? This can be termed as stacks and queues both. Linear, right? And what about non-linear? Non-linear may be, if I say A plus B, then I can represent this information as A and B. Is this linear? No, it is not linear. So this is an example of trees. And similarly, we can make graphs also, like D is here and we can make it like this. So it will be a form of graphs. Fine. So linear, non-linear, trees, graphs, stacks, queues, arrays, files, lists, pointers, characters, float, and teaser. They all are examples of data structures. Fine. So according to our requirement, according to the requirement of a program, it is our responsibility to choose best data structures as per the need. If it is good, your program algorithm is good, you will obtain efficient program. But if the selection of data structure is not good, then it may increase space complexity of the program as well as time complexity of the program. So it is important, in order to get efficient program, your selection of data structures and selection of algorithms both must be correct. This is all for now. Within this video, we will take a pause here, and next topic will be discussed in the next lecture.